Hi guys, in our today's class we are going to learn about the most common mistakes and things you should know before taking your IELTS writing. I'm sure that knowing some strategies and tips will help you succeed in your writing section. We'll begin our today's lesson by reviewing the most common mistakes in writing. The first thing you should keep in mind is avoiding using contractions. Instead of writing I won't be home, you need to write I will not be home. So never use contractions in academic writing. The following tip that is very important to remember that writing too few words is not that good. So if you write much less than the required word count, the examiner will reduce your score, even if your essay is really good. So you have to make sure if you are asked to write 150 words in the academic task 1, you need to meet that requirement. And for example, for the writing task 2, you have to write 250 words as well. The following tip we have is actually the opposite of what we discussed just right now, which is writing too many words. Remember that writing too many words is not a good idea too, because as you probably know, or maybe you don't know, that examiners are paid to mark your essays on an hour basis. It means they are being paid hourly, and they will not have enough time to read all the essays. For example, if you write 350 words instead of 250 words, examiner probably won't be able to finish reading your entire essay. And that means he or she probably will skip reading your conclusion, which is a very important part of your essay. So keep in mind that you should try to avoid your contractions, write too few words, and write too many words in your academic task 1 or writing task 2. Another common mistake that some students make is having handwriting that is difficult to read. Remember that IELTS is still a handwritten exam, and the examiners will not spend time trying to understand your writing if they cannot read it. You must make sure that your handwriting is not messy and can be read quickly. Also, asking your family members and friends to read your essays could be very helpful too, and they could give you honest feedback about your handwriting style. And the following point we have, it's using informal words. For example, instead of using nice, try to use positive. Remember that academic words are very different compared to our conversational English, and try to avoid using the words that we use in daily life, such as wanna, gonna, and so on. So there are a lot of words like that we use, but you should try to avoid using them. And the following common mistake, it's giving a personal opinion. So you have to be very careful, because sometimes the task actually does not ask your personal opinion. You need to read very carefully and understand if you need to provide your personal opinion or not. And the last point in our slide, on this slide, is telling stories about your personal history, friends, or family. Even though task tells you to use examples from your own experience, it does not mean that you have to describe in a lot of details about people's life or your friends' lives and maybe your personal life as well. So be very careful, and remember that IELTS test just test you in overall, you test your overall knowledge to see how much you learned and how much you know about the subject, maybe that you learned from the media or you read in the books. Alright guys, we're continuing to learn about the most common mistakes, and the first point we have on the slide is giving evidence which is too detailed or specific to a subject. This means you may be an expert in a particular or social scientific field, but the examiner probably has a different specialty. You need to make your ideas and examples accessible to the general reader. So try not to use specific terms, because your examiner might not know them. So, for example, if the task topic is about money and you are an accountant, do not use specialized accounting terms. It can confuse your examiner. And the following point we have is being emotional or too dramatic when giving your opinion about a certain topic. Sometimes students feel very passionate or emotional talking about some specific topics such as animal cruelty or maybe religion or politics. So try to be less emotional talking about these type of topics and avoid using very strong words such as disgusting, detest, unacceptable, I disapprove. So these type of words not a good idea to use during your academic writing or even speaking as well. So just remember to be very respectful and less emotional talking about such particular topics. And the last point we have on this PowerPoint slide is not following the basic structures presented in the task. So that means that examiners want to see a clear, well-structured essay that is easy to read. So they are accustomed to seeing the structures we have presented in this review. So you remember how we had our introduction, body paragraph, conclusion. So make sure you follow specific structure and you sound positive in your essay and you practice a lot before you take your test. So, and remember, if you do all these points and you follow all the task set requirements you have to complete, I'm sure that examiner will be happy to reward you with a very good band score. Now we are going to discuss our sentences. You need to use 4 types of sentences to reach a higher score. The first kind we have is a simple sentence. A simple sentence has one subject and one verb. And here we have an example. Television offers a variety of programs. In this case, we have one subject, which is television, and one verb, offers, which is a verb. And the following type of sentence we have, it's called compound sentence. A compound sentence has 2 or more simple sentences linked by the conjunctions and, or, and but. So if you guys remember before you studied in your grammar class, different fanboys we had, so these are conjunctions that we use. Here we have an example. Some people are not bothered by violent TV programs, but others avoid them. So here you see we have 2 simple sentences. The first one, some people are not bothered by violent TV programs. It's our first simple sentence. And then we have the second one, others avoid them. You cannot combine them without any conjunction, so make sure that you have one of the conjunction from fanboys. So here we have but, and also pay attention how we use a comma before our conjunction. The following one we have, it's our third type of sentence. It's a complex sentence. A complex sentence is made up of a simple sentence or independent clause and one more subordinate clause. We call it also dependent clause. So here we have the following example for this type of sentence. If we do not like a particular TV program, comma, we can easily change the channel. So the first one, it's actually called dependent clause. Dependent because it begins with if, and if you read this whole entire sentence, it depends on the second part of the sentence. It's incomplete. So for example, if we don't like a particular TV program, see, like it's not complete sentence. That's why we call it dependent clause. And the following sentence we have, for example, we can easily change the channel. So if you see the sentence, we can easily change the channel without the first part, it's still complete. That's why we call it independent clause. But remember, if you begin your sentences with if, when, after, so we have many different those words. When you begin with them, you have to make sure that you have a comma in the middle. But if you begin with an independent clause, for example, we can easily change the channel if we do not like a particular TV program. So when you have these words like if and when, even though in the middle, we do not use any comma. All right, so these are our 3 types of sentences. And in the following slide, we will review our last one. And here's our final type of sentence. We call it compound complex sentence. A compound complex sentence has 2 or more simple sentences and 1 or more subordinate clauses. So the following examples look like, while many people avoid watching violent TV programs, comma, others do not mind them and they watch them frequently. As you can see, we have our complex sentence combined with a compound sentence. So, and that's what we call compound complex sentence. You have a couple of independent clauses or dependent clauses, and you are combining them in one sentence. But be very careful, and then remember that you need to use your conjunctions. So for example, our first part, we have while many people avoid watching violent TV programs, comma, others do not mind them, and they watch them frequently. So do you see how we use conjunction and towards the end? So just remember that and make sure you practice a lot writing such sentences before applying them to your essays. And that's all we have for 4 different types of sentences, guys.